for a not supposed to be long, totally became long episode.
Hey, it's Christmas time. We are in the
Christmas.
season of giving, so we're giving lots of information.
We're also giving people lots of shit to laugh about. Anywho, welcome to Story Sirens, the podcast where we discuss fairy tales and legends from around the world. I'm Yenny.
And I'm Sarah. And Yenny, as I just said, we're getting closer and closer to Christmas. I'm so excited.
Me too.
I personally have Christmas movies playing on loop, and there's wrapping paper and bows everywhere. Jared's not too thrilled about it, but you know what? He doesn't like wrapping the gifts, so I'm the one responsible for all of it,
Fair
so
enough.
he can deal.
There you go. Fair enough.
It is pure on festive chaos over here, and I love it.
Yes.
So festive chaos is always a tradition here at my household. What are some of your favorite Christmas traditions, Yenny?
Girl, the moment Thanksgiving is over, I listen to Christmas tunes only for the whole month of December. Like, that's it. There's nothing else I listen to except now probably our podcast, but that's about it.
I'll give you that.
Yeah. We have to be our number one fans, okay? So
It's quality control.
Quality control. Anywho, shout out to Michael Bublé's Christmas album that literally has a piece of my heart. Lord knows it.
You and me both. I've also got like the Carpenters Christmas album on loop and Charlie Brown Christmas. And while I do love like the classic Handel's Messiah, I do love like the 80s, 90s Handel's Young Messiah, where they try to make it like a little bit rock and rolly, and now it just sounds very much like a product of its time. And
you need to send me that one because I don't think I know that.
I will. It's fun. It's very fun.
I probably have heard it, and the reason why I think I've probably heard it is because when I'm not on Spotify listening to music, that sounded like such a commercial. Well, I'm not on Spotify listening, but it's true. When I'm not in Spotify listening to music, I also listen to 101.5 Light FM, which here in Miami, it's a Christmas radio channel that like literally starts right after November. Yeah, it's the moment Thanksgiving is over, Christmas. All the time. I love it. So I've probably have heard of that one. That's why when you send it to me, I'm more than likely going to be
I'll send it.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, aside from that, Alex and I go and buy a real Christmas tree every single year for the past 5 years.
They have those in Florida?
Well, they bring them in, and I get them. Which, total side note real quick, did you know that there are 4 specific types of trees people buy during Christmas?
No.
Yeah, neither did I. But here we are. Listen, there's a Korean spur, a Douglas fir, a Norway spruce, and one of the most common, the white pine, which the white pine, yes, it is white. They actually spray paint it green.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Google educated me.
That's so weird. Thank goodness for Google.
Yeah, it was I was like, what the heck? I thought there was only one type of tree. I even went country afterwards.
Well, along with the Christmas trees, Yenny, like, what's your favorite Christmas decoration? Is there one in particular that, like, you really like?
Well, for the past 5 Christmases, we usually try to get one Christmas ornament to put, like, on the tree. So at one point, we won't have to buy any Christmas ornaments because it's just going to be all of, like, little things that we've purchased. And then, when we did have our first home, I bought us a Nutcracker. And so this last Christmas, we lived here and I bought a second Nutcracker. And then now this year, I'm going to buy a third one because I am growing a collection.
Yes! Okay. Well, much to my husband's chagrin, I also collect Nutcrackers.
This is why we're best friends.
Yes! And, like, I get why Jared isn't, like, the biggest fan of them because sometimes Nutcrackers can be really creepy looking, and I am super picky about the ones I add to my collection. Like, I'm sure, like, some hardcore collector out there is going to look at my, tiny little collection and be like, this does not qualify, and I'm just going to be like, I don't care, I love it.
It's what makes you happy.
Exactly. And like growing up, my parents would take me to like the local community ballet productions of the Nutcracker every Christmas.
Oh.
So like I was pretty much doomed to love Nutcrackers from the start.
I love it.
It's so fun. Like that's such a good ballet. And for me, it was also a lot of fun because I got to watch like my school friends aging through the production every year, from like starting as like the cute little mice characters to like playing Clara to like playing the role of the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Stop. I was a Sugar Plum Fairy for one of because I used to be a dancer throughout all of school.
Are there pictures of this?
I do. I will send them to you. I have it. And I was a little candy cane. It was one of the little candy canes. I did that one too. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to see these pictures. That
I promise
so
you,
cute.
When I go to my mom's house, I'm going to send it to you, and we're going to place it on the Discord for everybody to see.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh, I need these pictures. Well, I was also just going to say, for the production of the Nutcracker, because it was the same ballet company we went to every year that we were seeing our friends like age through. One of my school teachers was also involved in it, where like she helped with the costumes every year.
Aww.
And so like she would be working on, this year we have to, rework all the party outfits, or this year we're going to give all the snow fairies new costumes. So like we would be at her house or something, there would just be like tulle and sequins everywhere, and it was really fun.
I love that.
So, and I love that ballet. So, and that's why we're going to talk about it in more detail.
Yes, we are. That's what we're doing today, guys.
So hold on to your gingerbread, ladies and gentlemen. This story is wild.
And my body and soul are ready for it.
Yes. So, to start off this wild ride, we have to begin with a little bit of history. So, the history of the Nutcracker begins with the novella written by Ernst Theodor Wilhelm Hoffman, who, by the way, eventually changed the Wilhelm in his name to Amadeus because he was such a big fan of Amadeus Mozart.
Oh,
I love it. I love
that. That makes sense because then afterwards I'm like, where did we get ETA? So now I know.
So E.T.A. Hoffman was an artist, lawyer, musician, and writer who focused primarily in the Gothic, fantasy, and satirical genres, and he is credited as being one of the leaders of the Romantic movement in the 19th century. In fact, some credit him for helping Beethoven become one of the most famous composers of the Germanic Romantic and later Romantic period. But that's a story for a different podcast.
Don't hate me because I know you're going to give me a face. While I do love Beethoven the composer, I do love him, I am also a big fan of Beethoven the St. Bernard.
As you should be.
Those
He's adorable.
movies were my, yes, Air Bud is cool too or whatever, Golden Retriever, but Beethoven. Oh my God, I had those movies on repeat when I was younger. I loved them.
I am right there with you. Those are good movies.
Yes, they were.
So see, I didn't make a face. Come on.
Oh, okay.
So what is important to note in today's episode is that the writings and art of E.T.A. Hoffman were moving against the cultural grain of the Enlightenment, and the dates of the Enlightenment are roughly 1685 to 1815. So while leaders of the Enlightenment valued rationalism, science, and industrialism, Hoffman and his fellow German romantics, and I'm specifying German romantics because they helped jumpstart the romantic period of history. The German romantics valued imagination, emotion, and moving away from materialistic desires.
Wow. I too would be a romantic. Sarah, I believe that you and I should start a group. Instead of the Dead Poets Society, we're going to call it the Dead German Romantic Society. And that'll work for us. Well, maybe not German. The Dead Romantics. Yeah.
The Dead
or
Romantics?
Dead Composers? I don't know. We'll do something.
The Dead Creatives? I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
It sounds a little threatening, but I like your
I'm
spirit
sorry,
for this.
and Dead Poets doesn't? Because they both sound threatening because they're all dead.
They are. All right, so many of E.T.A. Hoffman's writings carried themes of society being discriminatory and too focused on status and appearances, which, that's still relevant tragically. But his writings also focused on the good and pure-hearted people who would always protect and care for the outcasts and who would always be able to see the true beauty which lay within.
Aw.
Right? So now, with that bit of history in mind, in 1816, his story, The Nutcracker and the Mouse King, was published within a collection of children's stories. So let's see if you can see some of his favorite themes in the tale.
Once upon a time, in the house of Dr. Stahlbaum, 7-year-old Maria Stahlbaum and her family were opening gifts on Christmas Eve. Her godfather, Drosselmeyer, presents to the children a mechanical castle with little people moving inside of it. It is good to note that Drosselmeyer is an inventor and a rather eccentric character who wears an eye patch and a very nice white wig that was made out of glass.
I would think that counts as eccentric.
Yes, definitely. It is also a very cool wig, but a bit dangerous, because if that wig falls,
Right?
the shards on your head, I don't know how I feel about it, but...
Yeah, I'm like, is this like spun glass? Because even then, like if that
Yeah.
breaks, like there's little shards everywhere.
You
and,
will
like,
die.
Have you ever touched like fiberglass? Ugh.
Oh, no, I have not, but
hate
I've
it.
heard it's not good.
I hate it. I hate it. Ugh. Okay.
No, thank you. Maybe he has a fiberglass wig. Maybe that's what it is.
It's still terrible.
I know, but I mean, I'm trying here. All right. This castle is described as being equipped with lights, glass windows, and sitting upon a little meadow filled with tiny mechanical people dressed in fine clothes. But since the people were built into the castle and could not be taken out, the children quickly became bored with it. Godfather Drosselmeyer is infuriated by the children's short attention span, which, I mean, come on. They're like 7. What do you expect?
Yeah,
They got the
it's
mind
a bunch
of a
of little
goldfish.
kids.
Yeah. But luckily, his temper is cooled by Mrs. Stahlbaum, who asks him to show her how his brilliant mechanical castle works. An old man and his ego.
Some things never change.
Nope.
So, at this time, as the other children were playing with their toys, Maria noticed a toy that no one else had been looking at. It was described as being the figure of a man, but a rather ugly and silly-looking man with a short, squat body and skinny little legs. He skipped leg day.
He did.
But Maria notices how fine the figurine's clothing is, and that his face, while not very attractive, has a very kind smile. She even says to herself that Godfather Drosselmeyer is odd-looking, but she loves him very much, so the toy's odd looks are no mark against it.
Oh my God, this is Jane Eyre with Rochester. Lord. He's ugly, but I mean, okay.
But I was like, all right, cool. What is it? Jessica Rabbit and Roger Rabbit? He makes me laugh.
He makes me laugh.
So Maria asked her father who the toy belonged to, who it was supposed to be gifted to. And her father said that the toy is a Nutcracker and that it had been brought for all of the children to share. He demonstrated how the Nutcracker worked and handed the toy to Maria, telling her that since she seemed to like it so much, she would be the one to take special care of it. But she still had to share it with her siblings.
Fair. Before we continue, let's talk a little bit about nutcrackers and how they came to be such a well-known and beloved Christmas ornament. It's no news that nuts have been a source of food for humans and animals alike since practically the dawn of time.
Delicious and nutritious until we bake them into something with tons of sugar.
Yeah, then it's no longer nutritious. But it is delicious.
It's good for the soul.
There you go. But as the years and humanity progressed, so did the way we ate, or rather, cracked open the shells to eat the nuts. The first ever type of quote-unquote nut-cracking technique was with a stone. But as we progressed, nut-cracking instruments made of metal, iron, brass, and wood came about. The first kind of wooden nutcrackers were just 2 pieces of wood fastened with a leather strap. But then around the 15th century, wood carvers in France and England got a bit creative with the cracking instruments, turning a piece of wood into a masterpiece. Well, a useful masterpiece, because these things gotta still, be able to crack nuts. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So, nutcrackers looking like soldiers and kings came around the 18th century. And while I thought, well, that's no surprise, E.T.A. Hoffman created the Nutcracker and Mouse King, they must have taken it from him. Actually, I was very surprised to find out that that was not the case, because E.T.A. Hoffman's story did not become popular until about the 20th century.
Yep. Published in the 19th century, popularized in the 20th, and featured on a podcast in the 21st.
There you go. Nutcrackers were made into authoritative figures like soldiers and kings to actually please the common folk.
Ooh, how fun to have all the royalty do the hard work of cracking nuts for you.
Right? And I think that that's what kind of like gave it a little bit of a more like fun thing to have in your household.
Yeah.
And honestly, there is so much cool information about nutcrackers and their history that I had no idea about, and now it's just ingrained in my brain forever. And so much so that there's actually a Nutcracker museum, which you can go visit in Leavenworth, Washington. Now that we have a clearer picture of our Nutcracker origins, shall we continue the story, Sarah?
Yes, we shall, Yenny. So, the siblings share the Nutcracker, breaking walnuts in its jaw and enjoying their Christmas Eve. But of course, what would a holiday be without siblings fighting? The brother, Frederick,
AKA the little shit,
took the Nutcracker and began to treat him roughly until finally some of the Nutcracker's teeth fell out and his jaw began to break. Maria cried out and took the toy from her brother, telling him that he was being cruel to the poor Nutcracker. When her brother took the toy again, threatening to use it until it was completely destroyed, Maria began to sob until the adults came into the room. Her father took the Nutcracker from the boy and told all the children that the Nutcracker fell under Maria's protection, and nothing could be done to the toy without Maria's consent.
Would this be considered gentle parenting? Because my mom would have whooped my ass if if someone brought a gift and I broke it, whooped right then and there.
We would have been in so much trouble.
Chancleta, gone.
So,
like, she had the
right
angle
there.
perfect, man. Like, she would just throw that shit and it would immediately, like, hit my ass. That's why my ass is so big. It's because I got smacked all the fucking time.
By the time that's every time.
Yeah, it's like permanently swollen from the amount of times I was a little shit, bro. I was Frederick 2.0. That was me. Yeah, it was bad. I was bad.
Oh my gosh.
I was very well taken care of. Listen, if you're from a Hispanic home, you know you got it all the dang time. So, anyways.
Well, while there was no chancleta for Frederick, the little girl gathered the broken teeth and took a ribbon from her dress to help tie up the Nutcracker's broken jaw, then wrapped him in her handkerchief and read her new books with him. Godfather Drosselmeyer thought that she was being silly and teased her a bit, to which she replied, "If you dressed as well as my Nutcracker, perhaps you could be as handsome as he is," which made her parents laugh.
I would too.
Right? That's a great joke. Like, the sass, perfect.
Yeah.
So night came, and Mother and Father made the children put all of their new toys away into a glass cabinet. Maria asked if she could stay up just a bit longer to attend to some responsibilities. With her parents' permission given, she went to the table and set her Nutcracker upon it, asking him to forgive her brother for playing too roughly with him, and then saying that Drosselmeyer would come back and fix his teeth.
You know what? I gotta bring it out here. This gives me some weird spirit demon vibes because she's talking to the Nutcracker like that. Like, that's not right, girl. Do not
Did
talk
you never talk to your toys like this?
Yes and no. Like, I played with them, but, like,
Right?
I knew I was playing with them, but, like, I wouldn't, like, talk to them like that. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like since I got older and I learned about, like, demon possession, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be fucking talking to inanimate objects, you know? Let's not invite, a poltergeist in.
Okay, well, as she was telling him that Godfather Drosselmeyer would come back and help fix him up, that's when the Nutcracker's face moved, making a silly expression at the mention of Drosselmeyer.
There it is. You see, Sarah? Demonic possession. There it is. Poltergeist, the Nutcracker, the poltergeist story. I told you. That's why I don't play with that shit.
Listen, calm down. This is a Christmas story, not a Halloween story. We don't have ghosts here, even though we have the
What do you
Christmas
mean, the
Carol.
ghost of Christmas past?
There are so many ghosts in Christmas stories, so, what can I say? Anywho, believing that her eyes had just played a trick on her, Maria decided it was time for bed and set the Nutcracker in the glass case.
As she turned to leave, the house shook, and the grandfather clock began to wind up a chime. But the chime never came. Instead, the wooden owl that sat on top of the clock began to speak.
Nope.
Poltergeist.
Nope.
Nope. It said that the Mouse King was listening.
Double nope.
I told you. Maria became very afraid and shook her head. And when she looked up at the clock again, the owl was gone. and Drosselmeyer was sitting on top of the clock, keeping the chime from ringing.
Triple nope! Drosselmeyer, what are you doing here?
Yeah, bro. Just as Maria was about to call out to him, thousands of mice burst from every nook and cranny in the home, and leading them was the seven-headed Mouse King.
You know what I said earlier about this is a Christmas story and not a Halloween story? This is a horror story. Christmas,
I told you.
Where the horrors never cease. This is terrifying.
It's terrifying. Listen, Maria, I've got a really good exterminator. I know he only speaks Spanish. I'll translate for you. But you need to get rid of this mouse problem, all right? Anywho, real quick, of course, I had to do it. Before we continue the story, I did find it rather odd that Hoffman's story included a seven-headed mouse. And so I did research.
I'm so proud of you.
I know. I'm doing so well.
Oh, you're doing great.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
We can find seven-headed beasts in multiple cultures and religions. In Hinduism, we have the Naga, or seven-headed serpent that symbolizes immortality and represents power, water, and fertility. In Greek mythology, the Lernaean Hydra was one of Hercules' 12 labors, a massive serpent-like beast with multiple heads that regenerated. The heads of the Hydra symbolizing the different vices humans have. Finally, in Christianity, the book of Revelation speaks of a seven-headed beast with 10 crowns, which symbolize demonic power and authority. Being that the Mouse King is depicted in the story as having 7 heads and 7 crowns, I have an inkling that Hoffman took some ideas from these beasts in religion to create the Foul Prince. What do you think, Sarah?
I think you are spot on. I think he took lots of cultural and religious motifs and said, this works great in a children's story.
Yeah, we're already having her go through like a massive poltergeist trip. Why not? Anywho, beasts and demonic energy aside, the mice ran towards Maria, who fell back and broke part of the glass case, cutting her arm with a shard. When the glass broke, Maria heard voices behind her. It was the toys, rallying each other to fight the mice and defend Maria. The toys, led by the Nutcracker, leaped out of the case and ran towards the rodents.
Our heroes?
Yes, our heroes. A great battle ensued, the air filled with sounds of squeaking mice and the Nutcracker yelling orders, and nobody in the house woke up during this.
Nobody.
At all. Nobody. But the toys were destroyed, and the Nutcracker was captured by the mice, until Maria took off her shoe and threw it at the mice.
Chancleta.
Just like the chancleta. There you go. Then she fainted.
Of course she fainted. So Maria wakes up the next morning in her own bed. She tries to tell her parents everything that occurred the night before, but of course, they don't believe her. They just see that she has a cut on her arm, and so she must have been playing and fallen into the case and broken it. So they instruct her to stay in bed and rest until she fully recovers. So Drosselmeyer arrives with the Nutcracker, now repaired and smiling with all of his teeth. He sees that Maria is naturally bored being stuck in bed, so he tells her the story of how Nutcrackers came into existence. The story of Princess Pirlipat and the Mouse Queen. That's right, friends, we're doing a story within a story.
I love these.
So, once upon a time, the Mouse Queen and all of her court snuck into the king's pantry and ate all of his good food. Angered by this, the king called upon the court inventor, a man by the name of Drosselmeyer, to create traps to kill the mice. The court inventor did so, and many mice were killed. Enraged by the death of her mouse children, the Mouse Queen swore vengeance against the king and queen and told them that she would take out her anger on their daughter, Princess Pirlipat.
Dude, this story just keeps getting, worse and worse.
This story is really good at jumping from whimsical to diabolical.
Diabolical, my God.
Well done, E.T.A. Hoffman. So the Mouse Queen cast a spell on the princess, giving her a giant head, a tiny shriveled little body, and a frightening, tooth-filled grin that went from ear to ear.
Yo, this shit is creepy.
This is terrifying. May I also say, Princess Pirlipat is a baby at this point in time.
Oh.
So she would scream and wail and cry, refusing comfort of any kind. And the only thing that would calm her were walnuts that she would crack in her cursed teeth. The nurses guarding the princess screamed in terror, and the queen was inconsolable.
The king called upon the inventor Drosselmeyer again and told him to find a cure and quickly. So the inventor turned to his friend, the astrologer, and together they set out to find a cure for the princess's curse. The astrologer sees in the princess's horoscope that she must eat a magical nut called a Krakatuk. Who came up with that word, anyways? That has been cracked and handed to her by a man who has never shaved nor worn boots since his birth, aka Bigfoot. Okay, fine. Not Bigfoot, but I mean, it could be. At this point, everything's possible. So this man must also not look at the princess as he hands the magical nut to her, and he must walk backwards 7 paces without tripping after giving her the magical nut. Totally simple, right?
Ugh.
The astrologer and inventor shared this news with the king, who responded with,
"Well, go find this man and the Krakatuk or die trying."
"Oh, that's very sweet of him." The
Right?
two men searched for 15 years, y'all. Traveling across the world trying to find the Krakatuk and the non-Bigfoot man. The inventor fell into a depression, and after 15 years wanted to visit his hometown again. The astrologer and inventor traveled to Nuremberg, the inventor's hometown, and went to see the inventor's brother, a puppet maker. The brothers were delighted to see each other again, and the inventor told the puppet maker all about Princess Pirlipat, the curse and the cure that he was searching for 15 years. That girl must... You imagine being stuck in a curse for 15 years?
Oh,
Oh my
terrible.
God. Yeah.
So, at the end of recounting his saga, the puppet maker jumped up from his seat and began to celebrate, saying that he had exactly what the inventor was looking for.
Oh.
Recently, the puppet maker had bought some nuts from a strange man, and one of the nuts wouldn't break. In fact, it seemed to sparkle and shine as if it were actually made of gold, so he kept it. He showed it to the inventor, who showed it to the astrologer, who confirmed that it was indeed the magical Krakatuk. And, because good fortune never comes single, the puppet maker told the pair that his son had never worn boots and had never shaved.
Who takes pride in saying this? Like, isn't this in Germany? Isn't it cold? Like, he's probably has frostbite. He doesn't have toes anymore.
So the 2 men met the son, a very handsome young man, and they knew they were saved.
Oh, come on.
So during the 15 years the astrologer and inventor had been searching for a cure, the king had promised his daughter's hand in marriage to anyone who could break the spell. So the inventor, astrologer, and the son went back to present themselves before the king. The son bowed to the king, queen, and the cursed Princess Pirlipat, who thought he was very handsome and hoped that he would be the one to break the spell.
Okay, how is he handsome? If he's never shaved and he just wears sandals? I mean, come on. I know what those bros look like, dog. I live in Miami. And listen, well, if you got a well-maintained beard and you're like a flat-footer that just likes wearing sandals, fine. At least it's maintained. You're talking about someone who's never shaved in his life. That beard must reach his toes. His frostbitten toes, might I add. And not only that, like... if you never shaved, like even your as a man, you're not the hairs in your nostrils are down your ear hairs. What about his freaking eyebrows? This isn't right. This isn't right.
I'm assuming that this young man might actually just be a teenager, and so we know how beards work for teenagers. Like sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not, and maybe for the shoes, maybe he's wearing loafers. Those don't count as boots.
No. You're too optimistic. That man is probably nasty, and those toes. You know his toes. His feet got calluses. Come on,
Madam,
now.
You are just too harsh. You need to adapt to the fairy tale logic. Come on.
Fairy tale logic.
All right. So the young man took the Krakatuk and broke it easily, then bowed low to the princess and offered her the kernel. Once she took it, he closed his eyes and began to back up 7 paces, just as he was instructed. Princess Pirlipat ate the kernel and immediately was transformed back into a beautiful young woman. She was so happy, and she called for her hero Nutcracker to come and marry her.
Ah, but alas, what is a good story without a twist? Especially a folklore story, huh? Just as the hero Nutcracker took his last step back, the Mouse Queen appeared, sensing her magic had been broken, and tripped him. As he fell, the curse landed on him.
No!
His body shriveled up, his head became huge, and his once handsome smile became a terrifying, unnaturally wide grin. The court stared at the transformation in horror, and as the Mouse Queen lay dying, she said that her descendant who wore 7 crowns would avenge her death and destroy the man she had cursed. Remember when I said that she tripped Big Daddy Bigfoot? Yeah. Well, he fell on her neck and killed her, and that's why she's dying. Because that makes sense.
She deserved it. She deserved it.
Dead queen aside, apparently a good personality just isn't enough, y'all. The princess saw the transformed young man and cried out at his hideousness.
Rude, you just look like that.
I know, right? I'm like, girl, please. Anywho, she ordered him to leave the castle. The king, greatly relieved to have his daughter, but greatly distressed by all the curses, blamed the inventor and astrologer and banished them too, which makes no sense.
This whole royal family is just rude.
Yeah. As the 3 left the kingdom, the astrologer told the Nutcracker that he had consulted the stars, and they said all was not lost, and that the Nutcracker would be restored to his handsome form, and one day he would lead a great kingdom. And thus was the end of Godfather Drosselmeyer's story, and we learned why nutcrackers were so ugly, and what it means that if you're ugly, it's not enough to have a good personality in this story. So,
so sad.
Anyhow, Sarah, let's get back to E.T.A. Hoffman's tale. Where were we again?
We were telling our listeners the story Godfather Drosselmeyer told about the inventor Drosselmeyer and young nephew Drosselmeyer to Maria. When Godfather Drosselmeyer was done with the story and left the room, Maria looked at her Nutcracker and told her that she was sorry for how terribly the princess had treated him, and she was very sorry he was under a curse. That night, Maria woke up to the sound of skittering and scratching.
AKA demons, anyhow.
The 7 voices of the Mouse King called out to her. If she did not give him all of her candy and food, he would eat the Nutcracker. She found all of her Christmas candy and laid it out for the rodents to feast upon. The next night, Maria could feel the mice race across her bed as she slept, and the Mouse King woke her again. He told her he wanted all of her toys, or else he would eat the Nutcracker.
Talk about ruining the life of a poor, defenseless, ridiculously rich and silver spoon-fed little girl.
When he left, Maria went to the glass case to retrieve her toys and began to cry. The Nutcracker saw her tears and asked her what was wrong. Maria, used to talking objects and magic now, said that the Mouse King kept asking for her things, but she knew one day she would have nothing left to give him, and then he would hurt her and the Nutcracker. The Nutcracker told her not to cry and not to give anything more to the Mouse King. Instead, he needed her to find him a sword, and he would take care of the Mouse King once and for all. Maria found a sword on one of her brother's toy soldiers and brought it to the Nutcracker. The next night, Maria heard soft taps on her door. At first, she feared it was the Mouse King, but as the tapping continued, she heard the soft little voice of the Nutcracker calling to her.
Nutcracker, or creepy demon who has decided to possess a Nutcracker? It is still up for discussion if you ask me.
Opening her bedroom door, she looked down and saw that the Nutcracker was holding up 7 golden crowns to her. He had defeated the Mouse King.
Woo!
To celebrate, the Nutcracker asked Maria if she would like to go visit the kingdom he had come from. To which Maria said she would like to see it, but only for a little bit because she still needed sleep. She's so sensible for a 7-year-old.
Shit. I'd be like, take me and make me your queen, bro. I got like 10 brothers and sisters, super annoying. One of them destroys all my toys. Why not?
Right? Why not? Let's go. Magical Kingdom? Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. Even though she had asked for a short trip, our hero had other plans. The Nutcracker took her to the sparkling candy meadow, the Christmas woods, the Orange Brook, Gingerbreadville, located on the Molasses River, Bonbon Town, Rose Lake, and finally, the gleaming castle at the capital of the kingdom, Confectionville. Shepherds
I
and
love
shepherdesses.
this.
I know, it's so cute.
This is so cute.
Shepherds and shepherdesses danced for Maria as hunters from the woods blew on their horns, though the Nutcracker was embarrassed by them and said they did not dance and play well enough for Maria. Aw.
He wants to impress her.
I know. But the little girl was absolutely charmed by them. They were beautiful people from all over the world, dressed in brilliant clothing and calling to Maria and the Nutcracker, who they called Prince. The Nutcracker told his subjects about his battle with the Mouse King and how Maria had saved him many, many times. The people cheered and sang and danced and lifted Maria and the Nutcracker high on golden chairs. Maria noticed that she was being raised higher and higher still, and then she fell.
When she opened her eyes, she was tangled in her bedsheets. Her mother came into her room to gather her for breakfast, and Maria tried to tell her about the wonderful adventures and the magical land she had traveled to. Of course, her mother did not believe a word that Maria said, and maybe, possibly, thought she should start taking her to a therapist.
Absolutely, I would.
But the girl was undeterred, and she retrieved the 7 crowns of the Mouse King to prove to her mother that she was telling the truth. But still, she was not believed by her mother, father, brother, sister, or even Godfather Drosselmeyer. Even when Maria told Godfather that the Nutcracker was his nephew, since obviously Godfather Drosselmeyer was the inventor from the story, right?
Oh, she's really going to a therapist now. They're like,
right?
She's making up shit too much.
So she sat quietly by the glass toy cabinet, thinking of her wonderful adventure, which she knew in her heart had in fact happened. She looked at the Nutcracker in the glass case and said, "Oh, Prince Nutcracker, if you were living, I would not act like Princess Pirlipat and send you away when it was for my sake that you had become cursed." At this, there was a loud knocking on the door. She heard her father call out,
"Ah, young Master Drosselmeyer from Nuremberg."
And into the house came a handsome young man, dressed in a fine red coat, with a silk hat under his arm and a glittering sword at his side.
Oh.
He stayed for dinner with the family, bringing sweets and toys for the children, cracking nuts for everyone at the table, and Maria stared at him in awe. As the evening came to a close, Maria approached the young man and said, "Dear Master Drosselmeyer, you are a kind, good-natured young man, and since you rule in such a charming land amongst such pretty merry people, I will be your bride." The young man smiled because she knew he was the Nutcracker, and she had broken the curse finally. So he took her back to the magical kingdom of Christmas woods, rose lakes, and shining castles. It is said that they still reign in that magical kingdom. The end.
I
know.
Sarah?
I know. Yes.
Isn't she like 7 years old? What is going on? What is happening?
Yenny, didn't you just say that you'd go with him too since she had so many siblings?
Yeah,
you started this.
But like for an hour or two. This is kidnapping. What is this? She's 7. He is a young man. Oh my God.
I know.
I'm gonna say it. What the fuck? What the fuck?
I know.
Oh, hell no. Aside from this odd and rather concerning end, should our dear Maria be truly only 7 at the end of the story? Oh, Jesus Christ.
I know. I'm like, my gosh.
Oh, my God. Anywho, there's a common misconception that the Nutcracker, or Nussknacker, is a story that derives from the Brothers Grimm tales. While Grimm tales match the imagination and dark twist that is brought in E.T.A. Hoffman's story, they did not make a Nutcracker tale. It is solely E.T.A. Hoffman's creation, and the reason I bring this up is that a lot of, like, when you go search for it, a lot of people think that there's, like, a Brothers Grimm version, and they're like, no, it is not. Because this is wild.
E.T.A. Hoffman. Oh, it's so wild.
And E.T.A. Hoffman obviously is a little bit weird because why would you have a 7-year-old marry a young man?
I know. I'm right there with you. So that was a lot of story.
A lot of creepy.
Before we move into how this story became the fanciful, whimsical Christmas classic ballet that we all know and love.
And is not a love story.
That is not a love story. There is a little bit I want to discuss concerning the symbolism in the story.
Ooh.
So, first off, Hoffman truly believed that children were the best at seeing the value in a person, even when society deemed that person to be an outcast. In the story, Drosselmeyer is a trickster. He's brilliant, clever, eccentric, but still a trickster-type character. He has ingratiated himself with the wealthy Stauben family, because if you remember, Dad's a doctor, and he brings them mechanical treasures and fixes them whenever needed. He sees that Maria is still a bright-eyed, open-minded child, so he tells her the story of the Nutcracker. Perhaps he truly hopes to break the curse on his nephew. Perhaps he's telling Maria, or indeed the reader, a satirical fairy tale about the dangers of greed and societal decay, represented by the mouse royalty, and prejudice, represented by Princess Pirlipat and her family.
Wow, this is really deep.
Yeah, it does go pretty deep there.
Yeah.
The next bit of symbolism I want to discuss is the mechanical castle. While at the beginning of the story it is described as being beautiful and intricate and absolutely brilliantly made, it is only briefly diverting. The children go bored with it because the beautiful mechanical people within can do nothing other than what they have been built/programmed to do. This is exactly the sort of life they are all headed towards, as their parents are raising them to fit within the strict molds society expects them to fit within.
Wow. I do want to go like a little bit deeper into this. Well, it is not a bad thing to enjoy like your 9 to 5 or a life that has a set schedule and routine. Guys, it is so imperative to give yourself time to rip away from social constraints and do things out of order or random or even a little bit thrill-seeking. Life is so short and filled with so many obstacles. You literally cannot allow yourself to forget to live your life. And what makes children so funny and carefree is their innocence to all the hardships that come with growing up. As we listeners and Sarah and I have gone through, there is so much things that we go through as adults, including sadness, grief, and all these things that kids have no idea about. But remember that while we do have to grow old, we don't have to grow up.
Thank you, Yanni. I love that.
Yeah.
So the next point I'd like to discuss is the name of the family, Stahlbaum, which is German for steel tree, so rigid, restrictive, and imprisoning.
Oh.
Though kind and well-meaning, Maria's parents, and her siblings to an extent, are put off by Maria's fantasies. They tell her to behave like, and I quote, a good little woman, and put away her daydreams. Her parents are preoccupied with Maria behaving as society deems appropriate, which at the time, during this era, society had very rigid expectations on children to behave like tiny adults. So by the end of the story, Maria is left without anyone to confide in, as even her older siblings side with her parents. And even Drosselmeyer is just teasing her and making fun of her. In the ballet, the family is given a lighter name of Silberhaus or Silver House.
You know, this also gives rise to the constant expectations women have, especially as little girls growing up. You know, there is no time for daydreaming or playing with toys because Maria in this scene is taught how to be obedient, respect her parents' wishes, and grow to become a fine wife and mother. A lot of us women go through that when we're kids. What is the big dream? Get married and have kids. And that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that, if that's what you believe in.
If you choose that for yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
But it is sort of putting us in a box that is really hard to get out of. In fact, in the story itself, her parents entrust her with the toy and for all her siblings to do as she says with it. giving her authority and again bringing her into being motherly. It is heart-wrenching to see her left alone and aware that she cannot confide in anyone about her dreams, something many of us have had to go through as our creativity and imagination are looked down upon and we are reinforced with doing what society deems as the norm. To which I'm going to give you a little secret, as Sarah and I are in our 30s. Nothing is normal, and it is all about perspective.
There we go. So the next point we're going to touch on for symbolism is the glass toy cabinet. While I did not mention this earlier in the story, the parents take Drosselmeyer's clockwork castle that the children are already bored with, and they set it on the top shelf of the cabinet, where the children cannot reach it. In fact, all of Drosselmeyer's creations have been placed there to show them off so that everybody can see them, but they can't touch them. Then, each of the children of the story must organize their toys neatly on their own assigned shelves, and the toys are locked away when playtime is over. This fits with the theme of keeping up appearances and locking away childhood and imagination.
Oh, it breaks my heart.
I know, right?
It totally breaks my heart.
I'm all for, clean up your toys, pick them up, put them where they belong when you're done playing, but locking them up and everything, that's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
So, some theorize, because I know both Yenny and I had a pretty big reaction to the ending of our story there.
Oh, for sure.
Some theorize that the end of the story, with Maria being taken to the magical kingdom, is actually Maria's death. We know she cut her arm on the glass cabinet. She must rest in bed for several days. And by the end of the story, she has withdrawn into herself. Is it because she's tired of being told to stop behaving like a silly little child? Or is it because the wound in her arm has become infected?
Oh, my God.
I'll leave that up to you, dear listener.
Oh, my God. So that means she died.
Yeah, that is an interpretation of the story. So.
Well, it makes sense because that would make me feel a little bit better for a 7-year-old to marry a freaking young-ass man. So, Jesus.
Now, if we choose to believe the quote-unquote happier version of the story, where Maria does not die at the end, the Nutcracker is a redemptive tale for both Maria and the titular character. They are rescued by each other, the Nutcracker from his curse and Maria from a constrained life where she cannot be honest or authentically herself. She doesn't fit in with her parents who are caught up with appearances. She doesn't fit in with her brother who lacks compassion, which is demonstrated in how he violently plays with all of the toys. She doesn't fit in with any of the people around her. She stays brave and true, sacrificing her own treasures to the mice to protect the Nutcracker and holding fast to what she believes.
Well, in my eyes, her brother is a psychopath. And
totally.
I wouldn't trust him with anything
Nope.
at all.
Nope.
But, guys, perhaps Maria's brother destroyed the toy for other reasons. Perhaps seeking attention from his parents, whom we can tell do not really play or have an easy, loving relationship with their children. He's feeling that way. When children act out, there's always a reason. I would like to think Frederick is a little shit, yes, but possibly he is a misunderstood little shit who is just trying to get the attention from his parents and not be, constantly pushed to the side.
I'd love to see, the Nutcracker from Frederick's perspective.
Yeah, and I would say that Maria seems to be the most loved and respected of the children because it is Maria's story. And Frederick immediately gets pushed to the side after violently hitting that. The parents don't even do anything about it. They're like, all right, Maria, you take care of everything.
Yeah, I will say, some beats that we did not hit in the story just because how much of the story are we going to cover is the fact that Frederick is very interested in playing with his toy soldiers and toy horses and setting up regiments and very militaristic. And, his father is teaching him, to be a good leader, you do this. And to be a good leader, you do that.
Right.
And then there is another sibling in the story, Louise, who just kind of gets a new dress and that's it. So it definitely is we don't pay much attention to them. And I do think towards the end of the story when, after Maria's gotten back from traveling to Gingerbreadville and the castle in the magical land, and she tells her parents about it and her parents don't believe her, and then she tells her siblings about it, the story does specifically state that, at first Frederick kind of entertains her story, but then he gets tired of it and he says, do what mother and father tell you to do, put these away. And I wonder if that's sort of Frederick, kind of having a bid to be the favorite child, to say like, hey, mom and dad told us to do this.
Sibling rivalry is very common in families because parents, sometimes even without them wanting to, they do compare their children. And their sibling rivalry is very normal, very, very normal. But you have to be very delicate with this because it could break the relationship between siblings. I know many siblings, and we've talked about it in other episodes where and I think in bonus content too, we've talked about how we know some siblings that don't even talk to each other. Pretty much they're like dead to each other. And parents do have a say in this, Like, actually, we're bringing back Vampire Diaries. I think it's pretty freaking crazy that Elena is like dates both brothers. Like, come on. Like, I know Elena and Damon, I love them, but Damon messed up, dude. You do not date your brother's girl, bro. Like, what is that? No. What is that? Anyways, aside from this, let's jump into the ballets, shall we? Or just the different renditions of stories that we're going to go through.
Let's do that.
In 1844, Alexander Dumas published his version of the Nutcracker. Reports say his adaptation came about during a Christmas party, where the children at the party cornered him and demanded a story. Again, this is alleged history of his version. We don't know the real history. The stories are very similar, but Dumas' is a lot less scary and more family-friendly. Drosselmeyer is also more of a helpful character in Dumas' version, whereas in Hoffman version, he ignores Maria and can be seen as aloof and sinister at times. After all, he claims to not know what Maria is talking about, when Hoffman's tale makes it quite clear that he was the one who set everything in motion. He kind of gives me, I know the name, don't say it. I know the name. From the
don't
guy...
hurt yourself.
No, from the Disney thing.
Disney, yes. Is
that
it a Disney movie?
Yeah, no, the Disney show Once Upon a Time. And
then Rumpelstiltskin!
There it is. He kind of gives me Rumpelstiltskin vibes, definitely.
Yeah. I like that here. He's just like pulling all the strings going, how can I make this work for me? So, in the 1890s, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky was commissioned by the director of the Imperial Theater's Ivan Zavolozhsky, I believe. But he was commissioned to compose a double bill program for the theater, one opera and one ballet. Tchaikovsky teamed up with the choreographer Marius Petipa, with whom he had successfully worked with on their Sleeping Beauty ballet, and the two got to work adapting Dumas' version of the Nutcracker. The two worked on dance movements, casting, story, and this was when Maria's name was changed to Clara. The horrifying seven-headed Mouse King only has one head in this version.
Yup.
And the story also all takes place within one night, implying that all of the adventures were the product of Clara's dreams as she fell asleep playing with the Nutcracker and her other Christmas toys.
Not dying.
You're right, exactly. The ballet is more of a coming of age story.
Right.
Where she goes on this magical adventure and then she wakes up and she's safely at home. It's very light, it's very whimsical, it's very sugary.
Yes.
So the ballet premiered 1 week before Christmas in 1892. It was met with mixed reviews by critics and audiences, but fans of the ballet included Tsar Nicholas II, father of Anastasia.
Yes.
So, in 1934, the ballet made its way to England. This was its first performance outside of Russia. The ballet was performed in the U.S. for the first time in 1944 in San Francisco. It was well received there, thanks to Disney's Fantasia bringing the Nutcracker suite to audiences' attention 4 years prior. As well, soldiers coming home from World War II were bringing European souvenirs back to their loved ones, Nutcrackers among them. But the ballet did not become the grand success we know it as today until it was performed in New York in 1954 with reworked choreography by George Balanchine.
I also believe that this is when the Sugar Plum Fairies made their grand entrance, if I'm not mistaken.
In the 1980s, the Pacific Northwest Theater staged a version of the Nutcracker with a story closer to Hoffman's original version. the theater commissioned writer and illustrator Maurice Sendak, the author of Where the Wild Things Are, to help them achieve their vision. You can still purchase the Nutcracker storybook with his illustrations. They're really pretty. Today, it's estimated that 40 to 48% of ticket sales for ballets across the country are for the Nutcracker.
Now let's go into Nutcracker in modern media and in modern times. Thanks to 1954's Christmas success, the Nutcracker became a staple ballet and musical score to see and listen to every holiday season. There have been multiple films made honoring the story, and here's a few. The iconic Barbie in the Nutcracker.
Yes, iconic. As a child, I was obsessed with this movie. I had the Barbie from the movie.
Oh,
and
I'm jealous.
I don't know how we swung that because, I don't know. But I was so excited that I had the Barbie from the Nutcracker. And I would pose her with my very first Nutcracker by the plate of cookies that we'd leave out for Santa.
Oh.
Also, I will say, don't write it off just because it's a Barbie movie.
Yeah,
that film deserves way more credit. They hired dancers from the New York City Ballet to choreograph and motion capture the dance scenes in the film. They put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, it's Barbie. Duh.
It's Barbie. So, sorry, I did not mean to go off on that sort of rant, but
oh, yes, you
continue.
did, and it's okay. 1993's Nutcracker film, which actually brings the ballet to life.
All right, I'm going to rant again.
There you go. I said it,
This version is also known as George Blanchine's Nutcracker. Remember him from earlier in the episode? He's the one who helped popularize it. And actually, it's a really fun film. Also, Macaulay Culkin is in it. So that makes him part of 2 Christmas franchises. He's just cornered the market. The Home Alone kid.
The market,
yeah. Boom.
We also have Disney's The Nutcracker and the Four Realms, which Sarah does not have anything to say about, and neither do I because I haven't seen it. But
I haven't seen it either.
It doesn't have really good reviews, so viewer discretion on that part.
Yeah. So if you've had enough Nutcracker but want more E.T.A. Hoffman stories, you can find his collected works at your library or local bookstore. Also, there's an opera called The Tales of Hoffman by Jacques Offenbach. It is based on 3 of Hoffman's stories and features a fictionalized version of Hoffman as the protagonist. Retellings of the Nutcracker in novels have also become very popular. Here's a few that may catch our bookworm babe's eyes.
A Quart of Sugar and Spice by Rebecca F. Kenny and The Kingdom of Sweets by Erica Johansson. There's also festivals around the U.S. in ode of the Nutcracker, and we're just going to give you 2. In Steubenville, I hope I'm saying that right, in Steubenville, Ohio, you have the Steubenville Nutcracker Village, which has been open since November 26th all the way to January 10th.
Love that. And in Brigham City, Utah, there is a Nutcracker celebration that started on November 16th and goes all the way through December 31st.
So definitely really cool if you guys can go. Here in Miami, we do have in Miracle Mile, we have the whole area done for Christmas, but it's not Nutcracker themed.
Yeah.
I also know that there is this huge Nutcracker sale. There are different Nutcrackers that you can buy. I don't know the exact place it is, but it was back in November, so that's why I'm not putting it. But it was a huge place for you to buy and sell Nutcrackers. I didn't know that was a real thing. Yeah. Anywho, we're down to the siren call. I think you've heard enough of us.
Oh, for sure.
This Christmas, visit your local theater or grab tickets to the Nutcracker Ballet. It is well worth it and leaves you in a very merry mood.
It's fun for the whole family. And don't forget to keep your sweets safe from little mice.
Oh, yes.
We'll see you next week with more Christmas confections.
I'm literally going to go buy a bunch of candy canes right now. And mint chocolates. Oh, my God. And cinnamon rolls. Ugh.
Oh, we need cookies too. Okay, yeah, we gotta go. So, bye!
Thanks for listening to Story Sirens. You can follow us on Instagram at Story Sirens Podcast. Want to support us? Send us a cup of Ko-fi by searching ko-fi.com/storysirens. We've got lots of treats for those who become siren seekers. All research materials can be found in the episode summary. Music by Donald Guzzi and artwork by Alexis Torres. Story Sirens is a Feather and Fin production. See you soon.